You think you know the Spartan warrior, the shield wall, the helmet, the line that never breaks. We see them in movies, a bronze-clad monolith of masculine perfection, the ultimate soldiers. But that image is a lie, a polished monument built over a foundation of pure, calculated darkness. The real Sparta wasn't just built on training, it was built on a secret. A ritual so brutal, so psychologically twisted, that it warped an entire civilization. And it all started not with a battle cry, but with a whisper in a young boy's ear. But before there was a soldier, there was a boy. And before he ever faced a foreign enemy, he was given a different target, his own neighbor. The very people who fed him, who built his home, who made his society function, this is the hidden fracture at the heart of the Spartan legend. Their greatest enemy was never across a border. It was in the fields, in the huts, living under their boot. And their final test was to prove they understood this, not with honor, but with a dagger in the dark. Forget Thermopylae. This is the story of the real Spartan initiation. This is not a story of battle. It's a story of a hunt. A silent, state-ordered hunt that happened in the dark for over 200 years. It was institutionalized terror disguised as a graduation exercise. While Athenian boys were learning philosophy and rhetoric, the elite Spartan youth was slipping into the shadows with a single mandate: to kill. Not for glory, not for land, but for control. This was the engine of fear that kept Sparta running. A dirty secret they never carved into their statues. It was called the Krypteia, the secret. And it was Sparta's final exam in becoming a monster. Welcome to the night hunt. This is where the agoge's brutal training found its purpose. They didn't just create warriors, they created assassins, not for foreign lands, but for their own backyard. The Krypteia was the final weld, fusing the Spartan identity to an act of cold-blooded murder against the innocent. It was the moment a boy died and a creature of the state was born. If that opening got under your skin, you're starting to feel it. We've talked about Sparta's brutality before, the agoge, the training, the starvation, the whippings, the constant grinding competition. That was the forge. It heated the metal, hammered out the soft spots. But the Krypteia, that was the quenching, the shocking, violent plunge into ice-cold reality that set the blade forever. It transformed the metal from something that could be reshaped into something hard, brittle, and lethally sharp. But the Krypteia is something else. It's not training, it's application. It's where theory meets blood, where a Spartan boy becomes a living weapon of terror. Imagine spending your entire childhood being told you are the best, the chosen, the pinnacle of humanity, and then to prove it, you are sent to commit the most cowardly, dishonorable act imaginable. That's the psychological trap. That's the genius and the evil of the system. It didn't just test your body, it captured your soul. Tonight, on The Black Code, we're pulling back the curtain on one of history's most disturbing state secrets. We're not just recounting facts, we're going to walk that path. We're going to feel the isolation, the paranoia, the moment of decision. We're going to understand why Sparta needed this and what it cost them. Because the price of that perfect, fearsome society wasn't paid in gold or even in blood alone. It was paid in humanity. We're going into the dark with those boys. We're going to see what they had to do to earn the title of Spartan, and it will change how you see the word warrior forever. A warrior fights an enemy, a soldier follows orders, but what do you call a teenager who stalks and murders a sleeping man for the crime of being capable? That's the question Sparta asked its sons to answer with action. Their answer defined them and doomed them. This is the Black Code. The truth is a weapon. Let's see who it was pointed at. We decipher the systems, the unseen architectures of power, and Sparta's architecture was a masterpiece of paranoid design. Every pillar, every law, every ritual served one purpose: to keep a tiny minority in power over a vast, seething majority. The crypteia wasn't an anomaly, it was the keystone. To understand the night hunt, you have to understand the prison Sparta built for itself. Sparta was a tiny island of masters in a sea of slaves. Picture it: a lush river valley, fertile land, but the air is thick with tension. The Spartiates, the so-called equals, lived in their barren communal barracks, dedicating every waking moment to war. But all around them, in the villages and fields, were the helots. They weren't just slaves, they were an entire conquered people, Greeks like the Spartans themselves, bound to the land. They did everything. They grew the food, made the clothes, built the houses. They were the economic engine, and they outnumbered their Spartan masters by maybe 20 to 1. Think about that ratio for a second. 20 to 1. Every Spartan man went to sleep knowing he was surrounded, outnumbered in his own home, by people who had every reason to hate him. This created a society vibrating with a low, constant frequency of fear. Not the exhilarating fear of battle, but the gnawing, paranoid fear of the slave revolt, of the knife in the back from the servant you see every day. Their entire culture became a machine for managing this fear. The agoge wasn't just about creating tough soldiers, it was about creating men who were psychologically incapable of empathy towards the helots. And the crypteia was the ultimate expression of that. It was the state's preemptive strike, not against an army, but against the very idea of resistance. It was a policy of constant, undeclared war on their own population. The hunters, not grizzled veterans, but teenagers, boys who had just survived the agoge around 18 or 19. The best of the best, or rather the most ruthless, the most cunning, the ones who had most completely internalized the Spartan creed. They were selected in secret by the ephors, the powerful overseers. There was no grand ceremony, just cold, stark instructions. Their mission: go out alone, with nothing but a dagger, disappear and kill. But this wasn't mindless slaughter. That's the second terrifying layer. The crypteia was a program of targeted assassination. Their orders were to find and eliminate the problem helots. The strong ones, the smart ones, the natural leaders, the charismatic farmers, the skilled craftsmen who others looked up to. Anyone who showed a spark of independence, of strength, of potential leadership. This was social gardening with a knife, weeding out the tallest stalk so the rest would remain stunted and compliant. It was the systematic destruction of a people's leadership class before it could even form. Let's walk through the ritual. Let's follow one boy on his hunt. We'll call him Lycos. He's 19. He's endured the agoge. He's stolen. He's fought. He's gone hungry. He thinks he's proven himself. Then the summons. The ephors give him his dagger and his orders. No armor, no shield, no food from home. He must survive by stealing from the very people he's been sent to terrorize. Phase 1. The separation. He leaves everything behind. To his family, he vanishes. To the world, he ceases to exist. He becomes a ghost, living in the wild margins of Laconia. He sleeps in caves, in thickets, in ditches. This phase teaches absolute self-reliance and total immersion in the landscape of fear. He is no longer a Spartan citizen. He is a predator in the territory of his prey. Phase 2. The stalking. For weeks, maybe months, Lycos watches. He observes helot villages from the tree line. He isn't looking for a random victim. He's conducting cold, clinical surveillance. He notes the blacksmith whose forge is a gathering place, whose jokes make men laugh. He watches the farmer who organizes the harvest efficiently, who others defer to. He identifies the bonds of the community, and then he targets the nodes. This is where the psychological horror deepens for the helots. They know the stories, they know the crypteia exists. Every strong man goes to bed wondering if he's being watched. Every display of competence might be a death sentence. The crypteia created a culture of deliberate mediocrity among the oppressed. To be exceptional was to paint a target on your back. It strangled ambition and leadership in its crib with the silent threat of the knife. Phase 3. The kill. The night comes, Lycos moves. The rules are clear. It must be silent, stealthy, and utterly without honor. The ideal kill is from behind. A slit throat in a dark alley, a stab in the back as the target walks home from the fields. Sometimes, for maximum terror, the kill would be brutal and public. A body found mutilated in the village square as a stark warning to all. The message: we are always here, watching, and we can reach anyone, anytime. Imagine Lycos outside the blacksmith's hut. He hears the man laughing with his children, singing an old song. This man has committed no crime. His only sin is being respected, being capable. Lycos waits for hours until the last ember dies. Then he slips inside. This is the moment of transformation. This isn't a test of courage. It's a test of cruelty, a test of the ability to sever the last thread of human empathy, to commit a profound act of betrayal for the sake of the state. If he does it, he passes. He returns to Sparta, a true Spartiate, a full citizen. He gets his shield, his plot of land, his place in the mess hall. He has proven his loyalty is absolute, his ruthlessness complete. But what if he fails? What if he cannot bring himself to murder an innocent man in his sleep? They didn't execute him. That would be a waste of good training. No, they had a far more exquisite punishment. He would become a trembler, a social outcast, a living ghost, forced to wear distinctive patched clothing, to shave half his beard. No one would speak to him. No one would eat with him. No woman would marry him. In a society where honor was everything, this was a fate worse than death. The fear of becoming a non-person, of being erased from the social world, was the final psychological lever forcing boys to become monsters. So why was this the final exam? The agoge broke the boy down, stripped away his individuality, his comfort, his connection to family. The crypteia was where they rebuilt him, but with a new, twisted core. That core was shared guilt, shared blood. By making every Spartan elite complicit in the same dark, secret crime, the state created a bond stronger than any oath of loyalty. They were co-conspirators. They could never side with the helots because they were personally responsible for terrorizing them. Their identity as Spartans was now inextricably linked to the oppression of the helot. It was the ultimate insurance policy for the ruling class. The cost? Look at Spartan history. Yes, it worked. For centuries, there was no successful, large-scale helot revolt. But they created a society of paranoid, emotionally stunted killers, brilliant at control and nothing else. When Sparta finally fell, it wasn't just because their phalanx was outdated, it was because their society was hollow. They had perfected the art of being prison guards and forgotten how to build, create, or adapt. The crypteia was a masterpiece of control and a blueprint for cultural suicide. Now let's zoom out. Why does this ancient night hunt matter? Because the crypteia is a prototype. It's the ghost in the machine of every secret police, every death squad, every state program that uses preemptive terror against its own people. The tools have changed. Instead of daggers, we have algorithms and surveillance states. Instead of teenage boys, we have anonymous agents. But the principle is the same. Identify the strong, the leaders, the thinkers, and remove them. Create a climate where excellence is dangerous, where community is suspect, where fear silences dissent before it even speaks. The Kriptaya teaches us that the most effective control isn't just over bodies, but over the soul. Make a man commit an atrocity for the state, and he is bound to it forever by guilt and secret shame. The boy Lycos, if he survived, came back with his shield, but he also carried the dark with him, the memory of the song, the feel of the knife, the silence. That was the true price, not the hunger or the pain, but the secret. And that secret was the lock on the door of the Spartan mind. This is the Black Code. We decipher the programs of power. The night hunt never really ended, it just changed its name and its weapons. And to recognize it in our world, we must first remember where it began. The darkest secrets aren't always buried. Sometimes they're walking in plain sight, in the daylight, wearing the uniform of a hero.